Before we begin our discussion, I'd like to thank Kotstava for his kind words about my channel he told in one of his videos, and for his great and fun videos in general as well. It's always so great to find that there are people who like the same things about Dark Souls and discuss this stuff. So, since in one of the previous etymology videos we have mentioned Morn, Carim Archbishop's apostle and servant of Kaida, the goddess of tears, in this video I'd like to discuss a character who uses equipment designed after Morn.
I'm Eygon, a knight of Carim. If, like the others, you're fool enough to play the champion, then go on ahead, traipse right past the abandoned church. You'll face death, and it won't be pretty. Enough death to leave you broken. Time after time. Yeah. Time after time.
Eygon, a knight of Carim. He is a battle-hardened warrior, assigned to serve the arena maiden of the Way of White, whose name we've discussed in the very first etymology video, and basically even earlier than that, in one of my very first lore videos. So, basically name Eygon seems to be derived from an old German element ag, ek meaning edge of the sword, tip of the sword, likely merged with element ag, meaning or, ability to inspire dread, into element agin, root of such real-life names as Eygon. Actually, it seems that Eygon is simply a slightly changed form of Eygon, likely due to the fact that original game's text is in Japanese, which is only later translated into English, and Japanese version is actually pronounced like Eygon, Eygon, so additional Y could be a result of text translation from Japanese into English. And I guess such warlike name with meanings edge of the sword, or is quite a fitting name for a veteran warrior, even though he doesn't actually wield sword, but a huge great hammer, contrasting with name of maiden he protects, Irina, which is derived from Greek word for peace, as much as battle-hardened knight contrasts with a frail, blind holy maiden. And on the other hand, such name is also extremely fitting if we look from a slightly different point of view. We know that Eygon is tasked to protect Irina, as it is told that Carim Knight will dedicate an entire career to attending a single maiden. And one of the tools Eygon uses to protect Irina is his shield, that has some unique powers. As for the shield's origins, we'll discuss them a little later in the video. So, when offered a special prayer, the shield gives out a low moan that attracts the enemies towards the wielder, usually an effective questionable advantage. It's very handy for Eygon, who has to keep the beasts away from helpless none he protects. So, you see, Eygon is always on the edge of the sword, in the epicenter of battle, attracting all the enemies towards himself to draw them away from the arena. And by the looks of the shield, some cracks, burns, possibly traces of eroding acid, we can tell that it has seen a lot of such battles during Eygon's journeys. And I guess we can speculate that it's a proof that, despite the way Eygon speaks about Irina, he actually cares to protect her way more than it might appear. And that's one of the things that makes these characters, their relationship so great and interesting. And, of course, a hard-boiled warrior with oversized weapon traveling with a helpless, disabled woman, looking after her, and eventually locking her in the cave for her own safety, reminds us of story of Guts and Casca and their relationship, which makes it even more touching, possibly making us want to believe that there's actually something more than just knight's duty. Wouldn't it be cute if the real reason of his attitude were feelings and thoughts like me, who only knows how to swing a great hammer, and her frail scent maiden? No, impossible. So he pretends that he's only annoyed by burden of looking after her to maintain the necessary distance. But that's more about speculations and fan fiction. But continuing the discussion of Eygon and Irina, we can also note that tonight with a somewhat grotesque oversized great hammer, accompanying a frail holy maiden, actually reminds us of Selen Vinland and Saint Astraea of Demon's Souls. So let's also discuss their names as well. As for name Astraea, it is derived from a Greek word aster, star, and is actually a name of ancient Greek virgin goddess of innocence and purity, which is quite fitting for a saint maiden. And even more so if she bears the purer blood demon soul and is considered to be the most impure of all. Turning into a demon, in order to save the suffering ones, after falling into despair and losing faith as God abandoned her. And as for Garl, I guess his name might be derived from Old English element gar, meaning spear, javelin, pike, and possibly name Karl, derived from Old English root chil, kiol, meaning man or hero. So, even though Garl doesn't use a spear either, but a great hammer, I guess it's still a rather fitting name for a warrior, contrasting with a holy maiden. In addition to that, I guess it's also another similarity between Garl and Eygon. Like Garl has his name derived from word spear, while Eygon's name is related to word sword. Also, the shape of Garl's helmet might be considered to look a little reminiscent of the shape of spearhead, which might be related to the spear theory of his name meaning, though it's only a speculation. Alternatively, I guess, though I'd say it's quite less likely, name Garl could be derived from such names as Harold, Hailed. Harold derived from elements here, army and wield, ruler, which would also make some sense as a name of a knight of noble family. As for Garl's surname, Vinland, it's actually a real-life Old Norse word meaning either wineland or meadowland, and was used by Icelandic explorer Leifur Eriksson to call a portion of North America. And we can also note, possibly not a really very significant thing, but still interesting enough anyway, that there is some slight similarity between the statue depicting Leifur Eriksson and Garl's face from the Demon's Souls art book, though it might as well be coincidence, or maybe they don't even have much in common at all. What do you think about that? However, as it was pointed out to me by Vita, one of subscribers of my channel, who actually studies Germanistics and has helped me a lot with possible meaning behind the name Hordrik, the Van element in Vinland might also have some other meanings, and even though this topic is more related to the discussion of name of Dark Souls land of Vinheim, I guess that it won't really harm if we discuss it in this video as well, and I hope you agree with me. And, basically names Vinland and Vinheim are quite similar, as both contain element Van. While Vinland is obviously composed of this element plus land, and Vinheim has element Heim as its second part. As for element Heim, it is a rather common in Germanic and Nordic languages and means home, so Vinheim is a pretty natural sounding name for a land. But returning to the element Van, as pointed out by Vita, it can actually be derived from Germanic root Van meaning delicate, accurately crafted or nice, beautiful, which can possibly fit Vinheim as a land of sorceries, magic arts, science. However, Vita has also suggested that Van element could have also been transformed from a Latin root ventus, wind. So Vinheim could actually be an alternative form of Windheim, or Windham, as element Ham in fact has the same meaning as Heim, home, and has the same origins. And we can recall that Windham is the name of capital of Midland Kingdom in Kentaro Miura's manga Berserk. Already knowing how many things in Dark Souls are related to Berserk, we can assume that Vinheim is in fact another Berserk-inspired name, Windham written down using alternative forms of its elements, Wind, Van and Ham, Heim. Quite interesting, isn't it? And of course the same about element Van can be applied to name Vinland. And returning to the main topic of the video, there is also another character who shares surname Vinland, Selen Vinland, Garl's older sister. As for her name, Selen is derived from the name of ancient Greek goddess of moon, Selene, from word Solis, light, sister of Helios, Titan and personification of the sun in Greek mythology, also associated with Roman equivalent, Sol Invictus, whom we mentioned in one of the first etymology videos. And basically the fact that Garl has an older sister is yet another similarity to Eygon, as it is mentioned that he also has an older sister. And basically it is her face depicted on Eygon's moaning shield that was granted him upon being conferred knighthood. And having all these similarities together, I guess we may even go that far to say that not only Eygon is a reference to Garl, but also can be considered somewhat an alternative version of the same character. And speaking of similarities, Eygon has also some things in common with Paladin Leroy of Dark Souls 1, as both are paladin characters with great thumbers who can be summoned to fight bosses who create illusions of themselves. Well, I guess that would be it for this video. Though there are more interesting names I'd like to talk about, I guess it's better to leave them for another video, as they aren't related to Eygon, so it would be easier to find them. However, there is also one thing about Eygon and his name, though it's totally not lore related, just some fun observation. The edge of the sword meaning of his name might be considered a little fun, as it's reminiscent of an English version of the name of one of the Ace Attorney series characters, Miles Edgeworth. Objection! Whose English version name is likely related to edge and sword, as his original name Mitsurugi contains kanji of Japanese word for sword. Well, I guess that wasn't important at all, but maybe it might be an idea for some crossover fan art or something. Thanks for watching, I hope it was interesting for you. Also check out other etymology, lore or cosplay videos on my channel if you like.